Shabbat Shalom. One of my yoga teachers once asked one of her yoga teachers, how do you know when you are progressing in your yoga practice? And her yoga teacher said, you know when you're progressing in your yoga practice when you are becoming a nicer, kinder person when you're not practicing yoga. And it's really true. We don't always articulate it in these ways, but the idea that our spiritual practice should not be contained to the moment of practice. That, in fact, the point of our spiritual practice is to take it off the yoga mat, so to speak, and out into the world and transform us into kinder and more loving, compassionate people. A very similar sentiment was expressed by Rav David Feinstein, Zichrono Livracha, the son of Rav Moshe Feinstein. They were both, in their own rights, tremendous scholars and towering intellectuals, rabbis of American Judaism. His fourth yahrzeit is coming up, actually, in just a week or so. And in his obituaries, when he passed 4 years ago, he was quoted in many of the obituaries as having said that if you sit down to study Torah, and you get up and you are not a better person, you haven't really studied Torah, right? That the work of studying Torah is not an intellectual exercise or a religious exercise. It is also a transformative spiritual practice that should change us in some way. So I want to study a little Torah together this morning in the hopes that we will get up from it, maybe a little bit better, a little bit kinder than when we first opened up our texts. I want to look together at the story, page 114 and 115, one of the many stories in our Torah portion this week, really one of the many stories in the Torah that give us an opportunity to learn from the moral failings, I would say, to learn from the moral failings of our ancestors. Our ancestors were by far perfect people. And we have the story today of Hagar and Yishmael being banished, being sent out from Abraham's home, from Abraham and Sarah's home, and left really to die in the desert. Recall, Hagar is Sarah's handmaid. She gives him to Abraham because she can't have a child. Hagar gives birth to Yishmael. Yishmael is promised in his own right to be a great nation. Eventually, Sarah has her own child. This is Yitzchak. But Sarah does not like the whole situation, and for the second time, she tells Hagar and Yishmael to leave the home. And so they're out in the desert. Abraham gives them, to his great chagrin, he sends them out, but God tells him this is what he should do, to listen to his wife. This may not be the best moment to listen to your wife, but in any event, he does. And he sends them out with water and some food, and very quickly these provisions run out, and there they are about to die. And I wanted to look at two reads of just two psukim, actually, two lines in this story, two ways of seeing the presence of divine compassion in this narrative. So if we look on the top of page 115, verse 15 and 16, the water was gone from the skin. She left the child under one of the bushes, and she went and sat down at a distance, a bow shot away, for she thought, let me not look on the child as he dies. And sitting thus afar, she burst into tears. Vayishma Elohim et kol hana'ar, and God hears the voice, the call of the child. And an angel of God calls from heaven to Hagar and said to her, what troubles you, Hagar? What's with you? Fear not, for God has heeded the cry of the boy where he is, ba'asher hu sham. She leaves her son and she walks away. She can't bear to see the suffering. Beautiful read of this moment in the story offered by Rabbi Tali Adler of Yeshivat Hadar, where she writes that we can look at this moment as a moment that many of us would cast judgment on Hagar. How could a mother turn away from her child? How could a mother fail her child at such a desperate moment? How could Hadar not believe, not have faith in the promise that she was given that her son would become the head of a great nation? It would be so easy to judge this woman in this moment. And instead, she writes, God guides Hagar back to her son, teaching her how to be with him. Hagar's story becomes a promise. God's love for us is not dependent on our strength. God is with us even when we flinch, even when we look away. God is with us even in the moments when we have given up. God is with us even when, if only for a moment, we have walked away from the people we love the most. This is an image of divine compassion for Hagar that comes from transcending judgment of what this woman has done, or one way of understanding what this woman has done. The second read I want to offer is a moment of divine compassion for Yishmael. This comes from the Midrash. It's found in a number of different rabbinic compilations of Midrashim. The Midrash notes that these things happen right in succession. Hagar leaves her son under the bush. She walks away, and then immediately in the next pasuk, in the next verse, the angel comes and gives her water, or shows her where there is going to be water, the well. And the Midrash imagines a conversation that happens between an angel and God, the angel that is sent by God to go and show her the water, where the angel, who is somewhat bossy and indignant, as angels in the Midrash tend to be, says to God, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, why do you bring forth a well for this wicked person who will ultimately waylay travelers and wayfarers? This is a reference to the blessing, somewhat odd blessing, that is given to Hagar and Yishmael in chapter 16, when she is told by God, you shall call him Yishmael, he shall be a wild ass of a man, pera adam, yado v'chol v'yad kol bo, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. So we know that Yishmael is promised to be a wild and violent person. And so the angel says, God, why are you giving water to this child? You know, because you promised. These were your words, that this child is going to grow up and be a wicked, a violent person. To which God responds, Mahu achshav. But what is he right now? Achshav, right now. Lo tzaddik hu? Isn't he a tzaddik? Isn't he a righteous person right at this moment? He's a child. He hasn't done any of those things. Eini dan et ha'adam, ela al sha'a she'omed ba badin lefanai. I judge a person only on their state at the time that they stand in judgment before me. I don't look to the future. I don't presuppose what a person might do. I don't withhold benefit of the doubt. I don't say, well, that's just who they are, and that's how they're going to be. I look only at this moment, and I judge a person only at this moment. And at this moment, what God is saying is this child is a tzaddik, and this child needs compassion. This child needs love. This child needs life. So go down, my angel, and tell Hagar to lift up her eyes and see this well of water. These are two beautiful images of divine compassion, of moments where we might expect judgment, we might expect harshness, and instead we find God tells us these people are deserving of love. You might be wondering, why am I giving this Dvar Torah today? This sounds very much like a Dvar Torah for the high holidays. And in fact, this is one of the Torah readings for Rosh Hashanah. Perhaps this is why this is one of the Torah readings for Rosh Hashanah, because we're instructed here to consider where are the moments in our lives, where are the relationships in our lives where we jump quickly to judgment, instead of considering, is this a moment that needs compassion? And here we are, just about 6 weeks after Rosh Hashanah, and we get to read this story again. So we're having a little bit of a spiritual checkup, right? We had our big procedure back on the high holidays, and the doctor said, come back in 6 weeks and let me know how you're doing. So how are we doing? How are we doing 6 weeks after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the moment of intense spiritual practice, where we dug into prayer and self-reflection and tshuva, and we said, we're going to be better people. And here we are 6 weeks later. Did we take it off the mat? This is a question that our Parsha poses for us today, that we have the opportunity to reconnect with those intentions and those commitments that we set just about 6 weeks ago. So I invite you, over the course of our Torah reading and over the course of Shabbat and over the course of the coming weeks, to really explore and ask yourself, how am I doing? Have I moved in my own spiritual work and growth, in my efforts to not be as judgmental, to be a kinder person, to ask myself, does this person in front of me, does this situation in front of me really warrant my condemnation? Or is it a moment for curiosity and to see that instead it might be a moment for love? I offer that to you as an intention for our Torah reading this morning, and wish you a Shabbat Shalom.